Devlog, 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 dev. What takes the most time in game design? Coding? No. Textures? No. File management? Yeah, maybe. In my case, it's level design. Creating levels for Pilot Light, that's the name of the game now, was tedious and time-consuming. I could only use primitive shapes. I had to make sure everything was at 0 on the z-axis. I had to make sure every one of these boxes was set to have collision and labeled as a hazard. Wait, go back a second. 0 on the z-axis. Why is everything at 0 in a 3D game? Why not just make it 2D? That was an option that Godot presented to me whenever I start a new project, 2D or 3D. I weighed my options, which were basically 3D can look cooler, and making levels in 2D is easier. And then I realized that making stuff that looks cool in 3D requires 3D assets, so I went with 2D. There's nothing here. That's not entirely a bad thing. I upgraded to Godot 4.2 since it wouldn't break anything, since there was nothing to break. There was nothing, so I got to recreating the rocket. I was able to reuse a lot of concepts from the 3D version. Some differences being that I was working in pixels instead of meters, and 2D rigid bodies don't have a basis property. Please, for the love of God, Godot devs, please add basis to 2D objects. I had to do fucking math to get the rotation to work properly. I don't want to have to do that again. So the rocket pretty much functions identically to how it did in 3D. I made new particles for the engine, and I replaced the sonar with flares. If you hold the flare button, you'll spawn a bunch of them, and when you release it, you'll launch them out in random directions. I'm really proud of these. They were super fun to make. I did make the sonar initially, but someone suggested flares, and they ended up being way cooler, so I scrapped the sonar entirely. The biggest obstacle I ran into was creating levels, which, again, would be completely different between 3D and 2D. I tried using a tile set, which sucked, so I came up with this method. There's a static body, I create a polygon to act as a visible part of the level, and then a script to add collision to it, and holy shit, this just made creating levels so much easier. It's almost like sculpting it out of clay. Another side effect of moving to 2D is that now the game will probably run on mobile, so I may work on that at some point. Steam is my priority, and then maybe Android, and maybe iOS, but maybe not because I don't own any Apple devices to actually test the game on, not to mention how restrictive getting an app on the App Store is. Steam is priority number 1, though. Other than all that, a couple more additions that I've added were basic menus and a dialogue system. If you want to see more, subscribe because I plan on actually streaming development now that I'm a bit farther into it. Okay, thank you for watching.